Lauren Zima. This is Roses and Rose Live, and we are joined by a very special Bachelor guest today. She bungee jumped for love. She skydived for love, but it ended in heartbreak. She didn't end up with the final rose, but she was in the final three. And is it time for Tayshia 2.0? Joining me is Tayshia Adams from Colton Underwood season of The Bachelor. Tayshia, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have so many questions for you. I want to get into it all. But first, I just want to ask, you know, this week was finale week. We'll talk about it, but we saw you on the live portion of the finale. You looked beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
But how have you been feeling about it all as the finale has aired and as you saw Colton again? Just how are you feeling about this week and how things have gone?
You know, it's kind of overwhelming. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to relive all those feelings and those memories and stuff. But I'm happy. I'm doing really, really well, and I'm just excited for this next phase of life, to be quite honest. I could finally close that door and move on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what fans saw this week, because I know in real time it was months ago for you, but for us, we all just saw it on Monday and Tuesday night. Right. First, your breakup with Colton. As I said, I have never been so captivated by a closed door. We saw Colton come and sit down with you, and then you guys went behind closed doors for the rest of the breakup. But I want to ask you, in this moment, when he's telling you that he loves Cassie, what was going through your mind?
It was a lot to take in initially. I kind of just processed it, and I realized that reacting wasn't really going to get me anywhere. So I kind of just was a bigger person, removed myself from the situation, and was there for him.
Did you have any idea? I mean, he told you, I love Cassie, but sometimes, you know, the show is only a certain amount of time and we don't see the full conversation. Right. Did you have any idea that he'd jumped the fence for Cassie, that all of that had happened in that conversation?
No.
Wow.
All of that was a shock to me. I didn't know any of that until a couple days later, to be honest. So when I saw him, I had just thought that they had gone on their one-on-one and went extremely well, and he chose to be with her. And that's really all I knew. I was imagining all the different possibilities, to be honest.
So what was it like for you when you learned that he jumped the fence and that all that had happened?
I was shocked. I thought he kind of was having a midlife crisis, if you will, or should I say a crisis at 26. But it was shocking. He flew over that thing with ease. So he was obviously, his adrenaline was pumping. He was nervous. Did
you think, I mean, when you say kind of an early 20s crisis, did you think he was making a mistake, that he was kind of losing himself in all this and that he needed to figure some stuff out?
I agree. I think so. I think that he really put everything out there. He went from 30 women to 0 at that point. Well, the one that he wanted was no longer there. So in his eyes, he had lost it all. So I think he just needed to remove himself from all the cameras, all the producers, and just get lost in the Portugal night.
But when you learned about what had happened, like, did part of you think, because we saw Hannah G's breakup with him, and she was blindsided. Like, I think she had said she wondered if, you know, he was making the right choice, because she was thinking, like, what is even going on? When you learned about what had happened, did you wonder if Colton was making the right choice? Did you think maybe he should have given you and him more of a chance?
You know, I did. But at the same time, I'm not going to beg someone to stay with me. If, you know, we've had plenty of conversation and he kind of knows who I am. And if he didn't see me fitting in with his life, then that's all I needed to hear. That's the validation I needed to know that he wasn't my person. I know someone that's supposed to be with me was going to fight for me. But I did question his decision making. Hands down.
Yeah, and then we saw you walk out with just your straw purse. I was like, where is her luggage? Someone get her luggage for her.
My mind was elsewhere, okay? I didn't know what had just happened.
It's like, did somebody grab her bag for Tayshia? Poor Tayshia. Because what's the timeline on that? Like, how many hours had it been since you guys had your fantasy suite when he then comes back and breaks up with you?
It wasn't long after. I think it was a couple of days, maybe 2.
Okay. So for those 2 days, were you thinking things had gone well? Were you unsure?
To be honest, I think you kind of saw it on my face the morning after Fantasy Suite. And I was a little hesitant. And I think it's because I just had like a womanly instinct that I knew there was a little something off. And what sucks is I kind of had to sit with that uneasiness for a couple of days. But at the same time, I feel like if there was something major, he would have told me at that moment. So I was trying to stay optimistic, but I kind of felt like there was a little something off.
Yeah, I think watching you, we could tell, and it made me wonder what had gone down in that off-camera time, what kind of conversations you guys had, like how clear Colton was with his feelings for you during that.
I mean, we had great conversations. There was nothing that was like, oh my gosh, this is definitely not going to work. I think him just talking about his future and what he wants, as well as just body language, you can kind of read how everyone, how you're feeling inside. I don't know. I just felt something was off.
Yeah. And I mean, I loved how honest you were the morning after. You said, things didn't get intimate. You just straight up said that. Did you and Colton his virginity's been such a topic of discussion. Like, how did you guys address whether or not you would go there that night in Fantasy Suites?
To be quite honest with you, I think it was just an unspoken conversation that we had. I wasn't going to pressure him to anything. I knew he wasn't going to pressure me into anything. I was just feeling out the situation. And if things were to lead to that, then they would naturally. And that's how I would want it to happen, as opposed to being like, all right, this is what we're going to do.
I mean, I only, because it's just such a unique situation, a 26-year-old virgin on TV, it all discussed so much. I mean, he even talked to Chris Harrison about it, so, all right, well, good to know it was a little more natural in that situation. Then we see you guys go behind this closed door for this breakup, and you were the one who said, can we get away from the cameras? Having been on TV for so long at that point, why did you say that? Why did you want to get away from them?
To be honest, I think it's because I saw such a real side of him when we were alone, without cameras, without our mic packs on. And I just felt like if he needed to actually say something more to my face that he didn't want to say in front of the cameras, he was going to.
But you guys were still mic'd. Did you remember you were mic'd still? Or
honestly, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to look him in the eyes, and I wanted him to tell me. I didn't really think about how you're not supposed to do that, to be quite honest. So
it was kind of a season of some rules being broken and some new things being tried.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You're putting your heart out there. Your life is on hold for the possibility of finding your future person. I don't really think there are rules necessarily that need to be followed. If that's what you feel like you need to do, then that's what you do. That's what I did.
Yeah. That was when it really got heartbreaking. We heard you crying, saying you didn't want to go through this. What did that sentence mean?
I guess losing another person that I was investing my heart and my time into. It sucks. Breakups suck no matter who they're with, It just wasn't, he was hurting and I was hurting. I just didn't want to go through all that pain.
Well, one thing that so many people noticed is how much you comforted Colton during that breakup. Looking back, are you glad that you did, or do you wish you'd been a little harder on him or demanded more answers to him? Anything you would have done differently?
That was my natural instinct. I'm not gonna, that's who I am. So, I didn't think, honestly, exploding and yelling at him and getting upset was really going to help the situation. He had made up his mind, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. And comforting him at that time was what I felt was right. And I'm happy with how it all went down. He obviously got his girl in the end, so whatever happened happened.
Well, we saw you on Monday night's live episode, and you did seem, I'll be honest, you seemed to me a little bit like shut down, a little turned off. Not in a bad way. I just kind of felt like she seems over this. I mean, how over Colton are you at this point?
This happened a couple of months ago, and I've had a lot of time to process my entire journey with him. Like I said, I don't take anything for granted, and I still do cherish all those memories, but he's not for me. He's with someone else. I'm not going to continue to dwell on that. And I am really hopeful for the future, and I'm really looking forward to the person that I do find. So yeah, I was content. So
I loved hearing you say you deserve someone great, because you absolutely do.
thank you.
There was a moment when Chris Harrison said you loved this guy, and you took such a long pause, and it made me wonder. People talk about the Bachelor bubble and how feelings can be intensified. I mean, and you and Colton did life-threatening things together, like bungee jump and skydive and all this crazy stuff. It just kind of made me wonder, like, looking back, do you think that your feelings were not disingenuous, but just maybe amplified in that moment? Like, looking back, do you think that you were in love with Colton?
I definitely was falling in love with Colton. After the fantasy suite, I did tell him I love him. I was getting to the point of being in love with him. That's a big word, and I don't know. I just feel like we were on our way there.
Okay, because you did say that you loved him, I think, on the show.
Yeah, I do love him as a person. I do love him. I do see a potential future with us at that time. So yeah, I did love him. In love with him to the point where there's nothing else that mattered. And I was going to fight for him at that moment. I still think we needed a little bit more time. And there was hesitation, like I said, that next morning. So my feelings were a little off.
That is something that's kind of come out of this season with a couple of the relationships, and with Colton and Cassie as well. I mean, we always hear people say, a phrase used on the show is, I'm falling in love with you. And then people say, I'm in love with you. But I think this season we got a lot of, I love yous, like, but not I'm in love with you. Like Cassie said that too. She said, I love you. But we didn't get the I'm in love with yous necessarily. So, of course, we saw you guys break up. You seem in such a great place. I wanted to ask you, too, I mean, again, like that breakup was so emotional, and hearing the tears from behind the door. How long was it? How long did the breakup last in real life versus what we saw on TV?
I'd want to say about 20 minutes or so, 20, 30 minutes.
Is that kind of wild? I mean, you just spent months of your life investing in all this, and then it's over in 20 minutes. What was that like for you to process, especially once you left Portugal?
I think I process pain and, if you will, rejection in a different way, just because I have had probably one of like the worst things to happen to you, as far as being married and then getting a divorce and having someone not necessarily want to be married anymore. So the way that I process that is kind of just accepting the moment and taking for what it is. But I will tell you, that night and a few nights after that, I was crying. I was processing it all. It took a lot. It was really, really hard on me. So right then and there, you might not see everything that happened, but it was hard. It took a long time to feel okay and content.
Yeah. Any frustrations with Colton? Anything you wish he would have done differently in the breakup or after?
No. I mean, he said what he needed to say. He's in love with someone else. I mean, but also I got to say, no, you're not. You're making the wrong choice. And, I don't really have any regrets. I think he handled it as well as he could in the moment. You're microwaving a relationship, you know?
Your dad had like the best line ever. Ping. That was iconic. So on Tuesday night's finale, we then saw Colton and Cassie are together, obviously. Have you spoken to them this morning, like texted either of them or talked to them at all?
You know what? I have not yet. No, I have not. But I will be sending my love to them and best wishes.
Yes. How did you feel watching the episode? Because we saw them on the live portion and they seemed really happy, but the episode itself, what had been filmed in Portugal and in Spain, a lot of people were sort of struck by those moments because Cassie was, again, just like moving so slowly. When you were watching how they came together, what was going through your mind in terms of just seeing what their interactions were like, knowing that he'd broken up with you and Hannah for Cassie?
I mean, it looked like Colton was willing to do whatever he had to do in order to get Cassie. So their process may not have been how this show usually goes, but they did what was right for them, and I'm happy for them.
Yeah. Well, you were one of those people who, was kind of on one side of an issue. You and Kirpa and Colton and Cassie to do with this conversation of Colton and Cassie's motivations for being on the show. That was kind of a big question. And we actually interviewed Colton and Cassie this morning, and they talked about all that and said that it was overplayed. Looking back on that, do you feel that conversation was overplayed, or did the questioning of their intentions get the attention that it deserved?
I mean, I feel that at that time, it was a big deal to us. That is why it was brought up, and that's why it was as big of a deal as it was. But it was a little bit blown up with the media and all that kind of stuff.
Well, how do you feel about Colton and Cassie's intentions now?
Intentions now?
Yeah, looking back, you were one of the people who was kind of questioning, like, if they were ready for this and the reasons that they were there. Looking back, do you still stand by what you said, or do you feel differently?
I do still stand by what I said. Ultimately, Cassie necessarily wasn't ready for an engagement at the end. And that's what I said. I didn't make up anything. But she did what was right for her. And they're doing well now. So I hope that they get engaged. And, yeah.
I wasn't sure when Colton left, and I don't know if they just didn't show it, but they didn't show Colton saying goodbye to you and Hannah. They just showed her saying goodbye to Cassie. Were you guys close, Colton and Cassie and you and Hannah, towards the end there?
Towards the end, you know what? No, she didn't turn around and say goodbye to me, and she just kind of said bye to Cassie and then walked out.
Okay.
So
I just didn't know if you were still talking to her and if you guys had discussed, like, the whole Bachelorette thing, because that was kind of part of the discussion is someone here because they want to be Bachelorette? And now, of course, we've learned Hannah B is our Bachelorette. So how do you feel about that choice?
I think that Hannah really found herself during Colton's process. And I'm actually really excited to see her show her fun and quirky side that we all got to see, because I think she's very used to the pageant world where she has to be perfect all the time. And as you can tell, Hannah says what comes to mind, and she's fun. It's going to be a fun season. So I hope that she finds her guy. Those guys looked pretty cute last night. And her.
Anything that didn't air on TV that you wish would have?
Anything that didn't air? Not that I can think of. You guys got the part where I sat in chocolate, and that was hilarious at the time. And extremely embarrassing having Colton wipe the chocolate off my ass. And
you and Colton had some good moments. You had the near nip slip as well, which he was really there for you in the moment of. And your dad, he was so great. So you took to Instagram, you posted about how now is the time for Tayshia 2.0. What does that mean? And could we see you on reality TV again? I would love to see you on Paradise.
Tayshia 2.0, I'm apparently an adrenaline junkie. I didn't realize that beforehand, but I am, and I'm ready for my next fun adventure in that aspect. As far as reality TV, I am open to the idea. I don't know. I think I'm open to any possibility of being on any show. So,
okay. Well, we would love to see it. One more question I have for you, actually, because my producer wanted me to ask this and I forgot to, is when you were kind of knowing that you were someone who'd been really clear about your feelings with Colton, when you guys were looking back and watching that moment when Cassie is telling Colton she's not really into him, and then she leaves him, and then he's going to fight for her. What was that like as someone who really had cared about him so much?
To be honest with you, I know what it feels like for someone not to be able to reciprocate that love to you, and my heart went out for him because I knew that that's what he wanted so bad, and it hurt to watch. It really did hurt to watch.
And what was it like for you seeing Colton on the live finale? Good vibes between you two? Any awkwardness or pain at all?
I mean, I think we both had really good memories, and I think he agreed with me when I said that we had a lot of amazing firsts together. And, there wasn't any awkward vibes. I just feel like he's in a different headspace. I'm in a different headspace. And you can kind of see it, so.
Well, again, you looked amazing. All right, Tayshia, is there anything death-defying that you have left to do on any dates in your life? Like, I don't know what else you can do. You've bungee jumped, you've skydived. Is anything else on Tayshia's bucket list for Tayshia 2.0?
Ooh, I don't know. I kind of want to go swimming with the sharks, actually. I think that would be really fun.
I honestly, Tayshia, I wasn't sure you'd have an answer for that, but no, you had something right away. Okay, Tayshia is an adrenaline junkie. Tayshia Adams, everybody. Tayshia, thank you so much for being with us. We loved watching you all season long. You just carried yourself with elegance and humor and poise, and I hope to see you on TV again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.